The land reform bill has leapt over its final fence, passing with the support of the Liberal Democrats and Labour tonight. The Rural Affairs Minister hailed it as a watershed moment in the Scottish Government's effort to end land monopolies. The legislation gives ministers the power to break up big estates before they are sold and offers communities the chance to buy local land. The Conservatives, though, argue it's a flawed law that could harm the very rural areas it aims to help.
The Scotland we seek is one rooted in the values of fairness, dignity and hope. Scotland's land must be an asset that benefits the many, not the few. These words reflect this government's desire to effect real change and ensure that we deliver on the hopes and aspirations of our communities.
We, the Scottish Greens, remain absolutely committed to the transformative land reform that Scotland requires. This government bill may not deliver that, but the movement for change continues to grow stronger. Today is not the end of the road.
From estate managers to land reform campaigners, we have heard time and time again at committee that this bill would not meet the aims it had set out to do. The Scottish Conservative Group remain opposed to this flawed bill.
Well, before the vote, I asked Rural Affairs Secretary Mairi Gougeon how significant the legislation will be.
It is a really significant piece of legislation that we're taking through the Scottish Parliament at the moment, and what I would say is actually a watershed moment for land reform in Scotland. This has been a process and a journey that's been ongoing since the start of the Scottish Parliament, and that's when I think the bill introduces some really significant new measures and that the government will be taking for the first time. It's about increasing transparency. We'll have the ability to lot land for the first time, as well as the second part of the bill, which is also really significant for our agricultural sector, our tenant farmers and our small landholders in Scotland.
On lotting land, how often do you think ministers are actually going to intervene in these cases to potentially break up large estates?
Now, there aren't necessarily a lot of land transactions in a year, and I think especially for the size of the land that we're talking about, we've set the threshold at 1,000 hectares. That's about 55% of Scotland's land that would be caught by that. But given the number of transactions, as I say, in the accompanying documentation that we've set out, we'd expect that could be maybe a few of those transactions per year. But I think what's really critical about this lotting measure, though, is what it's about. It's about transparency, it's about community sustainability, and I think ministers having that power is really significant and I think can make a really positive difference for communities across rural Scotland.
And do you think it goes far enough? We've had some criticism from the Scottish Greens who are I believe abstaining on this. We've had criticism from Community Land Scotland. It just doesn't go quite far enough to break up monopolies in areas like the south of Scotland.
I do think when we're dealing with controversial issues like this, there are some people that are saying we're going too far, others saying that we're not going far enough. But I do think it's important to remember that we're introducing entirely new measures here that are based on evidence and based on recommendations and reports that have been done by the Scottish Land Commission. So I think these steps are significant. I think we have set them at the right level for now. But what's also critical is that in the bill, we do have the power to change those thresholds, to modify the powers if they're not working in the way that we might expect.
How long do you think it will be before people notice tangible change?
Well, the measures in the bill are going to take a while to implement. The bill needs to get hopefully be passed by the Scottish Parliament indeed tonight. It will then need to get royal assent and then we can look to implement it from there. Now, there are various things that we have to have in place first. The appointment of a Land and Communities Commissioner, because having that post in place is critical for some of the other elements of the bill. The land management plans, as an example, where we'll be asking landowners who own land over 1,000 hectares in size to consult and engage with communities. There's a lot of guidance we need to produce around that as well. So again, I'm keen that we hit the ground running as soon as that happens.
One of the other criticisms come from Scottish Land and Estates, obviously from the other side. They've said this is a flawed piece of legislation that they say could undermine efforts to tackle climate change, produce food and deliver housing. Do you accept that there are advantages to large-scale land ownership when it comes to environmental work in particular?
I just don't agree with necessarily saying it needs to be one or the other. We have one of the most concentrated patterns of land ownership in Europe, and I think we want to see a greater diversity in land ownership. And we see that when you look at other comparisons across Europe, and there have been a lot of studies done in relation to this that show that, you know, you can still tackle the climate crisis, the nature crisis, and do that in smaller land holdings. Now, I've been to visit many estates throughout the course of my time in this role. I've seen people that are doing good things and, you know, won't have anything to fear by the measures that are being introduced in this role, but we need to make sure that we are tackling the concentration of land ownership, which we know, based on the work that's been done, is detrimental to community sustainability. So I've also visited many areas of land that have been bought and managed by their community, where they're doing fantastic work, and we think that there need to be more opportunities for that. And again, we've provided more opportunities through the measures in the bill.